an embarrassing moment in public.
Yeah, we've had those.
Yeah, and when I do something or say something, you'll always give me this evil eye.
Oh, eyeball.
And I'll look at you and I'll think to myself, wow, I am done for here. I think everybody has one of those friends who always puts you in precarious situations. My friend was Chuck Klump, and it wasn't necessarily he was always the trouble, but he was always the one I was with when something bad happened.
I think people find, especially when you're younger, it's exciting to hang out with someone like that. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. So I have this story where Chuck Klump and I decide we're doing a double date, and we're in the car, and we both have our arms around the girls. You remember back in the 80s, you'd put your arm around the girl. We had one of those.
So uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, the girl's like leaning like this, and your arm is around them.
That was the thing to do.
Your arm's getting pins and needles. It's cramping up because it's so uncomfortable. But you felt cool if you had your arm around a girl in a car. And in those cars, they always had a bench seat back in the 80s. I was in a 74 Gran Torino. Remember the Starsky and Hutch car?
Yes.
Yeah, it was sort of like that, but mine was
nicer than the minivan you drive now.
right. But good point. But my Starsky and Hutch car had 4 doors and it was green, so it wasn't necessarily a neat looking car. So we're on the date and we're coming to a traffic light. And there's about 2 or 3 cars before us. And I slow down and there's a guy trying to get across the street. Remember in the 80s, the punk scene?
Yeah.
So he had the real high spiked hair. He had the chains. He was in the black boots. And he looked kind of tough. And so I wave him on to go ahead. You can go in front before I pull up. And as he goes in front, I just kind of slam on the gas.
After you waved him on? Showing off?
After I waved him on. So I slam in front of him and I was kind of showing off because I wanted to show the girls and they were laughing. They thought it was kind of cool and I didn't think any big deal of it. Well, then he comes up to my car window and he starts pounding it with his fist and he says, "Get out of the car." And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this guy wants me to get out. He's like, "Get out of the car." He wanted to fight me. So I look in the rear view mirror.
Did you have like a jean jacket on with no shirt under?
No.
That was your vibe.
At that time, I think I was 100 pounds soaking wet. So I'm not getting out of the car. But Chuck Klump, who's in the back seat, he was a bigger guy. So I look in the rear view mirror and Chuck's right away shaking his head. No, like I'm not getting out of the car either. I'm thinking, what? So now this guy's pounding on the window, yelling us to get out, hitting it with his fist. He then takes my antenna, rips it off the car, and he's whacking the car with the antenna. The girls are sitting there straight-faced, looking straight ahead. And I know they're thinking in their heads, is one of these guys going to step up and defend us, help us out here? And I wasn't moving. The doors were locked. All I'm saying is I hope this guy doesn't get in the car. Please light, turn green, turn green. Finally, it does after he kicks it a few more times, and I speed off. Well, the rest of the way where we're going to a movie, I'm thinking to myself, we're not going to a movie. I take the girls right home. Chuck and I don't say a word. The girls don't say a word. They're in the car. They get out. We never see them again. Worst blind date ever. I say to Chuck, I said, why didn't you get out of the car? Weren't you going to stick up and do something? He's like, nah, I wasn't fighting that guy.
He knew.
That wasn't the situation I wanted to get into because I'm thinking if Chuck had gotten out of the car, I was always that second guy in.
You'll start maybe a little trouble, instigate, and then back up.
Right. It would have made me look like a hero. But my dad always called people like Chuck Klump troublemakers. He gave that stigma to people because they were always getting in trouble. Did you have a Chuck Klump in your life? Was there a troublemaker that always got you in trouble?
I was a troublemaker. I was Chuck Klump.
Really?
Many of you know that.
Oh my gosh.
When I was young, I was an instigator. I was mean. And I did it because I didn't feel good about me, but I did it a lot at other people's expense.
Now, didn't you have a trip? You were going to go to Israel at one point.
Yes.
Were you the troublemaker in that story? And you almost messed up that chance to go away.
Well, there was a few of us. We were supposed to go to a youth group meeting and we ended up at the chicken coops with Colt 45. And I remember this cop showed up and he was fascinated by my one friend because he knew her mother and had a crush on her.
Oh, that's always a good thing.
Great thing, you think?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Not in this case?
No. So he was like, I'm taking these girls in. And it was so minor, but he took us in. I think he really wanted to meet her mom.
Okay.
And I don't know that her mom even came down to get her, but I called my dad and he was like, what happened? And I told him, he goes, Colt 45, that's it. He was so chill and cool. But when
there wasn't a little pot involved or marijuana?
Probably,
Yeah,
but
probably
I don't
a little
remember. But when
that was big back in the day.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I think I got home and my mom was like, you are not going to Israel with that group because it was always this group. And again, I was part of it. And finally, thank goodness, she was the queen of idle threats. And I did get to go to Israel for 6 weeks.
Parents are good at giving in.
They are.
Like they'll threaten
We
you
are
after you do
too.
something bad. Yeah, well, we definitely are with
But
our
I
kids.
admire the parents that don't give in.
Yeah,
They teach lessons.
It definitely
We were
teaches
never
a
those
lesson.
parents.
No, definitely not. And the thing I think of too when I think of troublemakers is today in relationships, the spouse may still have someone that's a troublemaker where the other spouse has resentment when you go out with them because you know they're going to get in trouble.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing in relationships nowadays.
Well, a lot of times you grow out of it and a lot of times you don't because it's that excitement, that rush of hanging out with that person. So if you're still doing that and your spouse is not approving, like you said, you can end up
like one spouse might get jealous because they know that troublemaker may not be married.
Right.
And they may go
They're looking
out
for girls.
they're always trying to hook up and they're bringing you along and it could make for something, it could make for a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could see where the spouse would get upset. So how about you folks out there? I would love to know if there's a troublemaker, you're Chuck Klump, in the comments. If there's, even if you want to just give us a name, but I'd love to know the story. Would you like to know? I would love to know that.
Yes.
If you have a
I
troublemaker.
have a couple in mind.
Yeah.
For those of you that watch.
Yeah, for that one person out there who's watching us. But we want to know your troublemaker. So leave in the comments who that might be. We'd love to read it. Today's Bloody is the Philly Pretzel Bloody. We have the pretzel.
I'm not a fan of the name of Philly Pretzel. It's a really cool bloody, but I feel like a Philly pretzel should be like the big, chunky, wide pretzel.
I
This is
agree.
like a boxed
No, it was a store-bought.
knockoff. It might
frozen.
say Philly. Did it say Philly on the box?
No, it didn't even say Philly Pretzel.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like a nugget from a box, and this one was a little half-ass. All right, put it together, but it still looks good, and it's going to be delicious to eat.
Well, let me tell you something. Philly pretzels are not as easy to get anymore. Remember, you used to, back in the day, you could get 3 pretzels on the street, any street corner in Philadelphia, 3 pretzels for $1 plus a squirt of mustard.
Yeah.
And
I forgot the mustard.
Those big pretzels you can't get anymore. But I still wanted to call it, I still wanted to go with that theme, the Philly Pretzel Bloody, because we have the pretzel, we have the cheese, we have the beef stick in there, and then we have a couple other little pretzel designs. But it really goes well on a Bloody Mary, a pretzel, because you got that salt and doughy feeling. But I don't know if you know this, but Philadelphia is known for tasty cakes, cheesecakes, and pretzels, because German immigrants brought these pretzels back in the 1700s to Philadelphia or Eastern Pennsylvania, and they brought that soft, doughy taste. And I know this is probably boring you to death right now.
I get bored so easy.
I'm looking over at you. And you're
I'm
like
really working on it.
You're like yawning at me.
No, I'm not.
But they came here and they brought that soft, doughy taste. So Philly pretzels is a big thing. But again, I don't know. Now that the Philly Pretzel Company opened, I think in 1998 they opened up, and I don't know if you can buy them on the street anymore.
Well, they have all these pretzel factories that you can go to now.
But I think that took a lot of jobs from those street vendors who had them on the street. Because I thought that was a neat tradition. People used to bring us to work all the time. If you were driving through Philly and you grabbed, the one thing you would do is you'd grab the 3 pretzels.
And you can't have one. You have like 7.
Oh, they're delicious. But they also make the Bloody Mary delicious. So check these out. Try it yourself. It's real easy.
Here's a word from our sponsor. Just kidding.
It's a fact that holding grudges against somebody who's done you wrong, or replaying, revisiting hurtful situations in your head over and over, only weighs you down and prevents you from being who you're meant to be right now, because you're still energetically holding on to the past. The energy that you put into constantly rewinding to the resentment. Why did they do that? Why did they say that to me? I didn't deserve to be treated that way. All of that only keeps you stuck. It will never change what happened. You've got to press stop and reject the urge to keep replaying so that you can then fast forward into the now for yourself.
Press stop, reject the urge to keep replaying. Grudges are a big thing in relationships right now, and it can really tear a relationship
apart. I think they've been around for a while.
They have. You know, the average person actually holds 7 grudges in them at any one time.
How can you even hold that amount of grudges in your mind? That's a ton.
It's insane, but that's what a problem grudges can be.
Wow. That's a lot of bad energy.
Big time. And guess how long the average grudge lasts?
10 years, 20 years?
It's actually 5 years.
5 years.
So if you're holding 7 grudges and they last 5 years, that's like your entire life is one big grudge.
Imagine the havoc on your body that grudge is doing.
Yeah, and grudges, that's one of the things. Grudges have a big effect on your body, your health. They bring a lot of negativity to you. It's a big thing.
Stress and sleep.
Yes, and your mood. Grudges don't really do anything good for you. It doesn't help you to have a grudge against someone else. People think that grudges will affect the other person.
They don't.
No.
The person usually isn't even thinking about it.
Yes.
But it definitely affects you. And there's ways to work on it. Some people don't know how to get out of that
Yes.
feeling of resentment, or they're still pissed. It's easy to say get over it, but how do you do that? You have to really work on acknowledging it, moving it to the back of your head, finding tapes, learn about how to let it go, working on the peace, as we always talk about, because that makes the grudge so much less, heavy on you.
So I put down some grudges that could occur during a relationship. One is like a forgotten anniversary or birthday.
People will hold on to that. They will not let it go at times. And it's like, speak about it. And then, yes, it hurts. The hurt will be there. But as time goes, as you start to feel better, try not to harp on things. I know I used to harp on things a lot, no matter what the situation was. Like if we would have conversations and then the kids were involved and then you would take the kids' side, I would harp on that and bring it up. And there's no reason to keep bringing it up. It hurts you more than the other person.
It does. And a lot of times, as far as you and I with birthdays and anniversaries, we don't take them between
don't
the
really
two
care.
of us real seriously.
We don't.
No, because
That's terrible.
we're not big into gifts. Those things aren't important. But there could be a spouse who gets very hurt by that.
Yes.
And you may think
Most
to
people
yourself,
make a big deal. It's important to make a big deal for most people.
they do. And people get offended when you forget their birthday. To me, it never bothers me when someone forgets my birthday.
No.
Like I never take it personally. It's not a big thing, but maybe that's because I don't take it seriously. But another thing people might hold a grudge about is, and we touched upon this in the last podcast, is chores around the house.
Right.
And we came up with a simple solution: make a business plan, make a schedule where people do the chores, and that can maybe,
Instead of resent.
and again, talk about it. But here's one. How about an embarrassing comment in public?
We've had those. I remember
All the time.
looking at you, giving you the dirty eyeball when you've said something.
Oh, you'll give me this look after I say something that may
I'm really good with dirty
maybe
looks.
offended
I
someone.
learned it at a young age.
And when I see that look, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I am done for here.
But you keep going with it. You're
do.
just like smiling and you continue and you can see the person's melting. And
Yeah.
I guess if I think about it, it would usually be me in those positions. But
Well, and I've been with people too where we carry a joke way too long.
oh, yes.
And we might rehash it over and over during a time. And then we've later had to apologize for that because.
And
of
I'm
what we did.
amazed at the people that don't hold grudges. When I was young, I was not always kind, and it was because I didn't feel good about myself, as I mentioned earlier. So when I see people, I'll go up to them as an adult and say, I know I really wasn't nice to you at 10 years old, and I would make fun of you, and that was not kind. And do you know why I did it? It wasn't you. It was me. I didn't feel good about who I was at the time, and I'd like to apologize. And they're so nice, and they act like they didn't hold a grudge.
But a lot of the times I know when we're out to dinner, you'll apologize to someone for an incident 30 years ago, and that person acts like, I don't even remember that. Like
They're they remember.
Nah,
I'm sure they do.
They
I was
might
brutal.
not, because we always in our own minds think worst case scenarios. And I think a lot of times that those people you may have abused at that time, they forgot about that over
Well, I
over
think
the
some of
years.
that stays with you. I think of childhood things that were
I mean,
said
it's nice of
me.
you to apologize,
Well, I feel awful because
but I feel like you're doing it every time we go out.
I do it a lot.
To someone.
I probably have a list, but it does make me feel better that I could take ownership because it was not right.
No. And
But I think it helped us later in life when our kids had situations. I could help guide them why they're doing it. And it's
Yes.
because when someone's not kind or bullying, they feel horrible about themselves.
You're right. Now, here's a good one. When people take financial secrets into a relationship, in other words, let's say you're with someone who has bad credit because they never pay their bills, you could hold a grudge then against
Sure.
them. And that's something that needs to be discussed and talked about too. Finances are important.
Yeah, I think we had situations too where you held a grudge at the time, and we really worked on not holding grudges, but you were a quiet grudge holder. When I think when I would go to ShopRite, I would say $50 cash back and sort of put it in my pocket.
Yeah, and I would never know.
Right.
So I always thought the food bill was $350 when it was really $300, but you'd grab a $50.
Right.
bill.
I had a big shopping problem, and I would do that and help myself. It did catch me. And then when you found out, you did hold a little bit
Yeah.
of a grudge, but it was not mean. It was just sort of quiet. And eventually we talked about it. We tried to get myself some help, and
You ran up some credit card bills too.
oh, yes.
And that can be a big grudge builder in a relationship.
And what I didn't realize at the time, instead of sneaking, because I just wanted to buy things, was if I just would have had these talks at the time, we were so young, and said, help me with this. You're very grounded. You would have just worked with me. And I did it the opposite way.
Not defending a partner. That's a big one where you can hold a grudge. In other words, let's say you're having a family discussion with a lot of relatives, and all of a sudden you take another family member's side. There can be a grudge there that you end up holding for a long time.
Well, there's family members that have huge fights and they will never speak to that family member again.
That's very sad.
It is, but maybe there's a reason they just can't do it, at the time, and maybe time will help.
And remember, it's only hurting the person who's holding that grudge.
Right.
With that family member. I mean, the best thing you can do is apologize. And then here's one. How about when the spouse always holds a mistake that you might have made over their head?
Right. And they bring it up.
You didn't mean to make that mistake. But if your spouse is always bringing it up and always making you relive that mistake, that can really be something to hold a grudge for. Now, grudges don't just have to be with another person. A lot of times, this is the biggest thing. A lot of times people hold grudges within themselves about themselves.
Yes.
And I can give a great example of that. The story in the beginning that I talked about, how I didn't get up and defend those girls on that date. Now, I know that's something really stupid, but maybe that story lingers in my head because I should have gotten out of the car. Maybe I should have defended them. And that's a grudge I hold within myself. So how do you cure that? It's very simple. There has to be a balance. There has to be something else that happened later in my life where maybe I do defend somebody. And when that happens, I can let go of that one incident.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And then the other thing too is, for instance, let's say you wish you had bought a stock when someone recommended it, but you're very careful. It takes you a long time to make decisions. And all of a sudden that stock shot up to a great amount of money. And then you feel like you're, again, holding a grudge. Why didn't I buy that stock at that time? So how do you make up for that? You start being more impulsive and doing things on impulse rather than waiting, trying to study things, learn all about it. Again, that's another way, because a lot of people hold grudges inside themselves.
I think I had a couple incidents as I was in my teens, maybe early 20s, I'd say.
Okay.
I'd cut off some friendships because maybe they did something that I didn't agree with, and I just wouldn't speak to them anymore. It was so immature. And later in life, I was like, they are great people. What am I doing? That was something within myself that I finally did reach out to the people. And again, when I apologized, they were so kind about it. But that was in me for years. Grudges are negative thoughts. And if you have enough of them or you hold on to them too long, they can cause ailments in your body.
And I want to touch on forgiveness, because forgiving people actually sets yourself free. And it's so important to forgive, just like you have done in many cases.
Well, no, people have done that to me.
People have
They're
forgiven
forgiving
you.
me. I was a Chuck Clump.
And how'd that make you feel?
I didn't feel good when I was doing that. You laugh with your friends and you're showing off and you think you're cool. And then later you feel awful. Make forgiveness a practice. Never go to sleep with your partner holding a grudge.
Please check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe. Don't forget, we want to hear your Chuck Clump stories. And we're also on TikTok, When Gary Met Wendy. We have a video every day that I know you're going to enjoy.
Have a great week. Mwah.